Hey y'all, we are back with another dense update. This update is sponsored by
Biomax Peptides, the scalpel, precise, targeted, working with your body, not overriding it. Support for recovery, better sleep, more control over appetite and body composition, hair health. We can even fix your limp biscuit.
This past weekend in Dallas, Texas, the first ever Xenom, a CrossFit licensed event, calling themselves, trademarking themselves, the Decathlon of Fitness. Xenom is partnered with brands like HWPO and Rogue. I saw that Bill and Katie were both on site for the event. However, I didn't see any representatives from HWPO. I am hearing that the only HWPO person noticeable on site was Jake Marconi. He was there with a couple of athletes, Jake Douglas, George Pryor, who were competing. Peter White, Pedro, Coffee Paws and Wads, was on site all weekend long, hanging out with Chase Ingram. Some of the footage he showed us of the venue, it looked really cool. It was the training facility for the Dallas Cowboys, which is not a cheap venue by any means.
We spared no expense. Spectacular design. Spared no expense.
Throughout the weekend, he jumped on a few live shows on the CF network to give us a full lay of the land, show us what was going on, talk about conversations he's had with people competing there.
I got a call and it was like, oh, they're too afraid to tell you, but you're not allowed in the warm-up area. I was like, okay.
Show me the vendor village again. That's the vendor village?
That's it.
That whole row down there?
Wilson Pack was the event director for the weekend. I'm hearing the setup was amazing. Everything ran on time. No surprise there. We all know Wilson is one of the best at what he does. Very few complaints over the weekend. There were some issues at the check-in process. They had all the athletes lined up outside. And as you know, it's summertime in Texas. So you would think with having this big, beautiful facility, they might have been able to bring them inside to go through all that. But other than that, very minimal complaints overall. Participants of this first event and all of the events will get themselves on the global leaderboard hosted on the Xenom website. They'll also get a cool digital graphic they can share to their social media and a bracelet. And really just bragging rights. Now, originally Keith Barlow, the most forward-facing person with Xenom, he's been on tons of interviews leading up to this first event, had mentioned that there were going to be upwards of 2,000 competitors. However, somewhere along the lines that changed. I'm hearing it had to do with the space of the venue and layouts of the floor. I'm also hearing that now that number is going to look more like 1,000 participants for the next event, which will be in London. There were a lot of big name athletes competing this weekend. Dan Bailey was on site competing. He had to pull out after the first day. I think he really just didn't anticipate what it was like to do 5 events a day back to back with just about an hour rest in between each event, and then have to go into a second day and do another 5 events. And this is a former CrossFit Games athlete.
And we quit.
Oh, Dan Bailey pulled out?
Taylor talked a little bit about this on the CF network.
And here's my take is that if you're just a normal CrossFitter or an average CrossFitter and you go to this event and you do it, it's not like you're just doing a 1-rep max snatch once. And then in 6 months, I kind of want to try that again. You're doing all 10 of these events. A year later, you're going to want to do all 10 of those events again. And then a year after that, you're going to want to do all 10 of those events again. The appeal of a High Rocks is that it's just about an hour, hour and a half. I think the window and the amount of people that are going to want to redo an entire 10 event competition weekend is 10 events, and it's the same 10 indefinitely.
The Xenom has an EPI calculator, which is their scoring system. They have this on their website, and you essentially could do a 2-day simulation at home in your gym, and you can plug all your scores into the website to see where you would land in the field and of the world records that are currently set. However, event 6 is a little tricky because they have a Rogue Rhino. I've never seen before in any CrossFit gym I've been to. Doesn't mean there aren't gyms that have them, but I think only a handful of the elite games athletes actually own one of these. They're somewhere in the neighborhood of $2,300, $2,500 last time I looked on Rogue's website. That would be the only thing that would hold back you being able to truly see where you would stack overall, unless you decide to buy a Rogue Rhino, which if Xenom is putting it in their event, and these 10 events are never going to change. I would imagine many gyms or athletes who are going to be taking this seriously to participate in annually or maybe even multiple times a year are going to want to purchase one of those. Abigail Dommett and Jack Farlow winning the elite individual division, taking home $25,000 each. Nobody else in that division winning any prize money, just the first place finishers. Jack Farlow actually had an off-floor interview with Bella Martin, and he talked a little bit about the Xenom scoring system.
Do you think when it comes to EPI, as opposed to traditional scoring in a CrossFit competition that you're used to, is it a little bit harder to navigate how you play the game?
I think it's just more simple because now you just give your best every event. If that was regular CrossFit scoring, I would have mailed it in, probably on lap 4 when I knew I wasn't going to catch him and no one was catching me. But because of the EPI system, I have to make it as close as possible at least.
And the scoring system is very different than the traditional game scoring system that we're used to. I saw that Emily Rolfe had posted this to her story. She ended up second place to Abigail Dommett here this weekend. And, I won 5 events, but I still lost and took second place, which is something she's not used to, right? If you win 5 out of 10 events, unless you bombed all other 5, which she did not, you are likely the winner of that event. But that was not the case here.
Your score wasn't based on your ranking, but your actual performance. In Xenom, we use the Elite Performance Index, which is an objective standard used by the Olympic Decathlon. Across 10 events, there's 10,000 points. That measures every rep, second, and weight, all contributing to your score. The current benchmark is set by current elite athletes in the world. And as Xenom evolves, so will that index.
So it's interesting. It's kind of like P-score, I think, in that respect, where you get rewarded for your performance. If you do really well, you get more than 1,000 points. But I don't believe you get any negative points here like you would in P-score. Chris Ibarra and Colton Mertens winning the male pairs. Olivia Kerstetter and Kyra Milligan winning female pairs. All 4 of those pairs athletes from the proven camp. Kyra and Olivia absolutely demolishing the 2 other teams in their respective division, taking home $12,500 for them to split. Now, moving forward at London, the first place finishers in the elite division will get 10,000, pairs will get 5,000. And if no one is able to beat the previous records already set from this first event, then that prize money will roll over to the next event. And it will continue that way until someone beats the records. I think the biggest hiccup for the weekend was they had no live streaming. So you really could only follow along through Instagram or through people like Pedro who were live on site. I think that's something they will plan to have at future events. And maybe they just didn't want to take the risk of having too much go wrong and that being up for public scrutiny. But as I understand it, there will be live streaming in the future. They do have a YouTube channel. They currently only have 172 subscribers and 1 video posted. But if you are interested in following along more, I would suggest go subscribe to their YouTube channel. Check them out on Instagram. The next event is in Olympia, London, and that will be after the CrossFit Games, end of August 29th through the 30th. You can find ticket information in the link in their bio on Instagram. The 2026 CrossFit Games roster is set. CrossFit did announce that the online semifinal leaderboard is closed. It is the same as what I reported last week for the top 7 that made it in the men and female divisions. So I'm not going to go over that, but here is a look at the 30 men and women. You can find this information on the CF Network News website. Now, every year, there is still a potential that last minute somebody will fail a drug test or a visa will get denied, and this might change. Dave is continuing with the athlete interviews. I think Sevon said he's done 40 of the 60 athletes so far, and every interview, I'll catch something that pertains to the games. Like, for instance, with Lucy the other day, he talked about the length of the swimming lanes for the pool event.
Using the 50s, there's just not enough lanes to get everyone through. But if you look at the pool from an overhead image and look at the side, there's a ton of 25 lengths.
And he did pretty much confirm it is the pool at Morgan Hill.
So when you can make a safe assumption that, okay, logistically to get, bigger heats through, they're going to probably use the 25.
And he did talk about the potential for next year's Open to have an 18 to 19-year-old category, maybe even 18 to 20, he said.
There's some suggestions from the team of adding an 18 and 19-year-old division in the Open.
He recently had.
I said, hi, Rachel.
Hello, how are you?
Good. How are you doing?
Good.
Congratulations on qualifying.
She had some good questions for him. She asked him about the bike. Will it have gears? And they also talked about swimming specifically. He mentioned that there is a possibility. Now, it's not set in stone. He didn't say for sure, but he did mention there's a possibility there will be no diving and no flip turning.
Okay.
If you were to take those two things out, a swimmer still has an advantage, but I think not as much. It kind of just takes some of the technique out of it. There's a potential that diving in and flip turns won't be allowed,
which is a bit controversial. I've noticed that the Barbell Spin has posted a couple of things, and I noticed that Rich Froning had posted he redid the 2013 swim event with the swim in the pool and the bar muscle ups, and I caught this comment.
Dave handles his haters so well. I know, aren't people embarrassed that they're so transparent in their hatred?
You can find all these athlete interviews on Dave Castro's YouTube channel. And if you're looking for more long form interviews with the athletes, Sevon has recently had a few games athletes on. I know he has more scheduled. He had Spencer Panchek on the other day, and Spencer was talking about an incident where he was driving down the road and
I was actually driving on the other side of the highway. So I was going this way, it was going this way, and a huge gust came in and blew this thing over. And I was like, so I pulled off the side of the road and ran over, and it was an older lady. She was stuck in the passenger side, face down on it. So it was me and another guy. I don't know how we rolled it, but we pushed this thing over and were able to pull her out and get her at least in our car.
I also absolutely love that there are 3 Panchek brothers for the first time competing at the CrossFit Games this year. Scott qualified for Masters, Spencer and Saxon, the twins, qualifying for individual elite. And then also Scott Panchek's wife qualifying for the Masters. I think that's just such an amazing story, not just for CrossFit, but for families. Because I've said this many times and I see it every day in our affiliate, the bond that happens between families who all CrossFit together. We have a lot of families at our gym specifically, and a lot of the kids are involved in CrossFit. They've grown up in the gym. They see their parents doing really hard things every day and also having fun with their friends. And then eventually they want to join in with that. And it really bonds families to do those things together. Ben Fowler talked about how his parents got him into CrossFit.
My parents, actually at the time they didn't own the gym. So my mum was doing CrossFit. I started going, so I was still playing rugby at the time. So she'd take me to the class at 5:30 a.m. We'd do the class together, go home, have food, go to school, rugby training at nighttime. Started doing extra workouts. Eventually my parents bought the gym. And so we started working there. So me and my brothers were coaching there. They owned the gym. Loved it. And that was probably the hardest part about leaving New Zealand and deciding to come here, was leaving the gym.
I think there's so many incredible stories there about how CrossFit truly does bond families. And if you're wanting a look at just the average everyday people in a CrossFit gym, I've recently started making videos with the coaches at our gym, with the owners, with some of the members, with the kids. You can find those on my personal YouTube channel. I will link that down below. And there is a new love story brewing in CrossFit. Nate Ackerman and Erica Folo have made it social media official.
Look into my eyes.